Hello, this is Lucinda Nord with Indiana Association of United Ways. On behalf of the Indiana Assets and Opportunity Network, I welcome you to this webinar about PrizeLink savings. We have a great panel today to give you an understanding of this fast-growing strategy to encourage savings, especially among low to moderate income families. And as you can see from our agenda, we have several panelists to share the background, research, and experience from some of the early innovators of this new strategy. I will facilitate our panelists today. We aim to save questions for the very end. However, I encourage you to type your questions in the chat box because we might have time during the process and we can organize our questions. So let's begin. Let's start with the research. And I'm sorry, let's start with some background. So Kelsey, if you want to take it away. Kelsey Clayton, our coordinator with the Indiana Assets and Opportunity Network. Many of you may have met her.
Great, thank you, Lucinda. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining the call today. We're extremely excited to have such a great panel to share on-the-ground examples of PrizeLink savings with you. I just wanted to give you a little bit of background of what the Indiana Assets and Opportunity Network is. We're a statewide coalition working to increase asset acquisition for low-wealth Hoosiers and to strengthen local economies through policy advocacy and capacity building. We were formed in 2014 to help support programs and policies that speak to the issues of assets and income. And our focus is to support communities as they build their asset-based strategies and to share information from across the state about program innovations. Just a little bit of background, we were formed in 2014. We have a steering committee, and we're just constantly on the ground meeting folks and sharing information. So we will definitely post this webinar on our website and a link on our e-newsletter. So please get in touch with me. My information is on the webinar, and we can stay connected. I'd love to hear from you. I'm going to go ahead and pass it to IACED, the Indiana Association of Community Economic Development's Program Manager, Rachel Mattingly. She'll go over a bit about the history of PrizeLink savings for you.
Thanks, Kelsey. Hi, everyone. So as Kelsey mentioned, I just want to give you a quick rundown on what PrizeLink savings are for those of you who may not be familiar with this program. The next slide.
Yes, sorry.
Problem. So PrizeLink savings is a strategy for encouraging new people to become savers, particularly low-income people, but really a lot of people who are considered financially vulnerable because they don't have emergency savings accounts. So PrizeLink savings pairs together a savings account with a lottery, which is how many low-income people invest their money to try to get more is through lotteries. So PrizeLink savings offers cash prizes for making regular deposits. The benefit being you don't lose that investment. You still have the money that you've invested in your savings account itself. At the same time, you have the opportunity to win, and the amount that can be won varies by program from $100 perhaps to $10,000. So it's very incentivizing to people who aren't used to saving. It encourages more regular savings from those who maybe have a savings account but don't make deposits very often, or who only make very small deposits on occasion. This encourages you have to make a particular size of a deposit, and you have to make them at a particular frequency rate to be eligible for those prizes. This is not a new program. It's actually been used for over 50 years in the United Kingdom, and it's also available in other places around the world. In the United States, it's illegal, or it's been illegal in many states due to regulations on lotteries that prohibit lotteries that are outside of the state-regulated lottery. Because of that, it hasn't been used as much in the U.S., although more states are beginning to use it and have shown high success rates with PrizeLink savings accounts. Financial institutions have been hesitant in some cases because they've been concerned that people won't actually change their behavior to become true savers, that people are approaching this as a lottery, and therefore are they really learning saving behavior, which is one of the goals of the program. The data shows, though, that short-term people are saving for that opportunity to win a prize, but long-term, as they continue through this program, they are becoming long-term savers who are truly changing their behavior and their approach to managing their finances, which is the goal of the program. So now Lucinda is going to give you a little bit more background about that regulatory, the regulatory background and the data for how the programs have worked.
Super, thank you. So let's start with some research. So, in our country, we have a variety of ways to save and build assets. This includes emergency savings, long-term savings, savings bonds, retirement accounts, educational savings accounts. So Pew Charitable Trust has studied how different income levels with families access different types of savings vehicles. And what they've found is that low-income children whose parents are savers actually have a better chance of upward mobility than low-income children whose parents aren't savers. So it's critical that we reach low-income parents with and encourage that habit of savings so that their children have a chance to have upward income mobility. Pew also found that our federal tax policies are really skewed toward people with means, and few of those benefits go to low-income households. Finally, or there's a lot of other research findings in this, but one that I'd like to call your attention to is the asset limits in public assistance programs like SNAP, formerly known as food stamps, actually discourage savings among low and moderate income families because their families are actually forced to spend down their emergency savings or their child savings accounts before they're eligible. So we are actually working with a number of partners to help eliminate the asset test for SNAP and really looking at smoothing that cliff effect. So watch for newsletters over the next legislative session. We really want to encourage savings of families. But we know that saving is hard. Think about diet and exercise. We all know that we should eat right and exercise, but it's far too easy not to, right? In our culture, our society encourages instant gratification over savings toward a goal. And this is evident in the drop in the savings rate to a meager 4.1% in 2012. Fewer people have enough savings to weather a short crisis now. Just as an example, our ALICE report, ALICE is an acronym that stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained, and Employed. We produced this report, and it demonstrates how over a third of Hoosiers struggle. Most people are actually working, and they have income. Many have income well above poverty, but below the cost of living. And what we've found with families is that it's really hard to have a sense of hope and a sense of futuristic thinking, but that's critical. So the research shows the differences between savers and non-savers. Non-savers are more open to the concept of prize-linked savings than savers, just as Rachel described earlier. And those who start with a prize-linked savings account increase their savings by 36%. What a great way to start the habit of savings. So a little bit about the background. We understand that we have a lot of financial institutions on the line, and this may be somewhat new. Indiana was only the 9th state to pass legislation that only allowed credit unions to start prize-linked savings accounts, and that was just last year. Then, as sort of an early Christmas present last year, Congress passed and the President signed the American Savings Promotion Act, which just became effective July 1 of this year. This allows prize-linked savings across the country while still distinguishing the difference between prize-linked savings and a lottery, and Rachel described that. The difference is that with a lottery, the customer does not maintain control of their funds, and they're likely to lose it on that chance. With a prize-linked savings account, the client maintains control of their money because it's in an account that they've saved, but they may be entered into this other additional activity that looks like a lottery to win additional funds, but they never lose their base. So here is my contact information and a quick plug for our ALICE report that I mentioned. And what I'd like to do now is actually turn it over to Carla James with the John H. Bonner Center, because they were an early innovator with prize-linked savings, and she can tell us what she has learned. So Carla, take it away.
Sure, thanks, Lucinda. I'm going to talk to you all about a prize-linked savings pilot that we operated from October of last year through March of this year. And we used the MetLife Savings Innovation Grant along with technical support from the Corporation for Enterprise Development to operate our pilot. And so first I'll talk about a little bit why we wanted to do this pilot. And one of the things is repeatedly our financial coaches, our employment coaches, our case managers were working with customers who simply did not have money available when life happened. When things would come up, they didn't have money to set aside for emergency, so there was a constant cycle of emergency, no emergency savings, and so they either went towards predatory products, or those people who are working in our individual development program would jeopardize their ability to save towards and invest in assets that grow in value over time in terms of accessing their IDA. So some of the key tools that we used to help develop this pilot, the client process map was integral to developing a pilot. The client process map allowed us to take a step back and look at everything a client went through to access our services. And it really helped us target who we should actually target for this pilot and when we should introduce our innovation. We used interviews to kind of figure out what people thought about emergency savings, how they handled them, and one of the big surprises that came out of the interviews with our customers is that an emergency to them would be basic everyday living expenses. So having money to put gas in the car to get to work, being able to pay the rent. And so between that and a few other surprise findings that we learned, we made some adjustments to our initial thoughts in terms of the pilot. With the prototyping, we were able to test out the paperwork, our messaging, even the coloration of everything we were doing with the pilot. And we did that actually in one of our financial education classes. We told the class, hey, we're thinking about doing this pilot. Would you participate? And then we presented the information to them, got feedback, made sure they understood what we were presenting, and then made some adjustments from there. And then what was really key was understanding behavioral economics. And we worked with the Center for Advanced Hindsight at Duke University to learn about default bias, loss aversion, regret, and social proof, and integrated those concepts into the pilot. So after going through all those, we narrowed down our target market. We looked at participants of the individual development account program initially because those people we're working with to buy their first home, start their own business, or attend college or job training. And a lot of times those individuals are jeopardizing their ability to access those goals because they didn't have those savings for the everyday life event. After going through the client process map, we actually changed our focus from current IDA participants to people who are actually interested in joining the IDA program, and we did that for a few reasons. One, our IDA participants are already tapped out and struggling to save for their IDA accounts. Two, our IDA prospects have a longer time horizon. A lot of times when you're applying for the IDA, there's a wait list or a time before you even join the program that gives people the opportunity to start practicing savings and putting money aside. And with the IDA prospects, we had a captive audience because those individuals are channeled into certain programming, so we had their attention for a period of time. Next slide, please. So our focus was on the prospects, the IDA prospects, and there were certain key features of the pilot. So when we had the captive audience, everything we did was conducted in our Pathways Financial Education class. The class is a class we put on every single month, and previously it was a free class, so we did have to make some changes. We started charging $25 for registration fee. The reason why we did that is with the Savings Innovation Pilot, we wanted people to join, and so they had to be able to put a deposit into their account. That deposit also became their first drawing, and we also made that deposit non-refundable. And by doing that, people didn't want to lose their money, so it made them more likely to join the pilot. Timeliness and ease of joining. The credit union that we worked with, Financial Health, actually came to class and opened the account right there in class. We did a presentation during our financial education class during Pathways right after the savings and investment piece. We integrated a PowerPoint into that program to talk to people about what it is, brought the credit union on to talk to them as well, and then everything that we did to design the program was that this was just natural par for the course. Of course, you're going to join this, and so if someone didn't want to join, they would actually have to take a specific option to opt out of the program. The other key feature of the program is communicating with the participants via text. Text we found worked better than email because it's immediate, it's timely, you can't really avoid or ignore a text. So the next several slides are some excerpts from the actual presentation that we used in class. And so the first thing is to introduce, hey, do you have a higher than expected bill? Little Timmy broke his leg, car maintenance, and so we wanted to make it light because sometimes people think of financial emergencies as a challenge, and so we wanted a little fun in there. So in class, the participants are able to open up their emergency club account. We tell them that we're going to refund that $25 registration fee that they paid, and that $25 registration fee again becomes their first deposit into that account, and it also becomes their first entry into the drawing. And each $25 deposit was one entry into the drawing. We did 5 $100 drawings each month and $1,000 grand prize drawing in April. Next slide. And so people had the opportunity to win over 30 chances to win. Next slide. So we kept the rules as basic and as simple as possible. Again, it was open to anyone who came through our Pathways classes from October through March. It didn't matter whether they would apply for the ID or not. We needed to do that to help administer and simplify the administration of the program. We worked with Financial Health Federal Credit Union, our long-term partner, and we kept the calculation of the entries simple so that the participants could actually figure out what their entries were as well. So by the end of each month, we totaled up the deposits, divided it by 25. One thing to note is we did not have a penalty for taking money out of the account. We went back and forth and debated on that, and ultimately we decided that the purpose and focus is to get people saving. We don't want to penalize people in the event that they might need to make a withdrawal because they saved for an unexpected emergency. We didn't count partial deposits, again, to keep things simple, and we used the calendar month, again, to keep things simple. And then we announced the drawing and winner on the 15th of each month and deposited the funds into each winner's account. We used an Excel formula to randomly pick the winners of all eligible deposits. We notified everyone via text. Again, all our communications were via text because it's timely. People look at text, they don't necessarily look at their emails. We did have one grand prize drawing winner, and that drawing was held in April. And so let's go over some of the results of the Stash Your Cash and Win promotion. So first of all the people who came through our Pathways class from October through March, 75 of them joined the Stash Your Cash and Win. That's out of 79 Pathways participants. The few individuals who didn't join actually wanted to join but had prior relationships with the credit union that prevented their inclusion. Of those 75 participants, they total deposited from October through March $39,125, and they withdrew about $10,000 of that. So the net deposits by the end of the pilot were about $28,000.
Can I just say, woohoo? That's great.
Great. We were very excited. Very excited. You'll see that there was a peak in February and March in terms of deposits, and you can imagine that that would be because of tax season. A lot of people used their earned income credit to make deposits into their accounts. Just the next slide, please. So some of the results, and I won't go over all the details, but some of the results I'd like to point out is that it really worked that 30 of the 69 participants made deposits in more than 1 month. We're very excited about that. 27 of the accounts had balances greater than the minimum opening deposit by the end of the pilot. We did have 41 participants, or 55%, who did not make another deposit after they're initially joining the Stash Your Cash and Win. And then we had some overachievers. So 81% of all the entries into the drawings came from the top 5 depositors. And that represented over 1,200 entries of the over 1,500 entries that we encountered. We had 23 participants who made deposits of at least $100, and that was one of the goals. We wanted people to have balances of over $100 by the end of the pilot. Another thing to note is that it's not just about helping people to connect and save funds. It also connected people to other credit union resources. We had 15 participants open checking accounts at the credit union as well. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so a few months out, what do we look like? So the pilot ended in March. We went back and looked at the accounts in July, and 56 of those 75 accounts are still open. The balances total about $24,000, so only $4,000 have come out of that account since March. And we have 16 balances that are over the initial deposit and 3 accounts with balances over $1,000. So we're excited that there's some sustainability there. Next slide, please. So some lessons learned with our process. When we offered the Stash Your Cash and Win, because we were focused specifically on helping people save for emergencies and unexpected expenses, we wanted them to have an account for that specific purpose. The credit union has an account called the Emergency Club account. They had to have, the participants had to open up a regular share account and then the sub account called the Emergency Club. That did create confusion for some participants who were making their deposits into the share account and not the club account, and so their deposits did not count for the entries. And so one of the things that we might change is just narrowing down and having one account for their deposits. Another lesson learned, 41 participants did not make another deposit after opening their account, and so we need to find ways to engage them. We did send out monthly texts asking them if they made their deposits. We also encouraged them to work with one of our financial coaches, but we're going to look at what other steps we can take to help people continue to make deposits after they open that account. And big thing, keeping it simple, making the default that they're automatically going to be enrolled in the program and forcing them to take action to opt out really helped to increase the participation in our pathways. So our next step is to revise our drawing. We'll have three $100 drawings each month. That's a reduction from 5. We'll have 2 grand prize drawing opportunities. We're going to look at changing our text messaging service because that was one of our big technical challenges that we had in-house, is actually setting up the text messages. And then we're also going to look at ways to increase the scalability and administration of the program so that we can make it bigger and better. And now I will turn it over to Rochelle, Branch Manager for Financial Health Federal Credit Union.
Good morning. Our experience with the PrizeLink savings was interesting. I think I definitely enjoyed it, helping people save and kind of shift their mindset. Things that I thought went well was there were a lot of respondents, certainly more than we've been able to generate out of our own members. And I thought that obviously we know on this call that there's a need for this type of service, but to me the amount of participants and the amount of people that kind of stuck with it shows that there's some interest in learning more positive financial habits. I think the retention and participation throughout was pretty good, and we were able as a credit union to reach some of the participants and help them with additional services. And like Carla said, a lot of them did keep their emergency funds open. Next slide. Things that I thought could be different is just kind of instilling the behavior. Like what I always try to preach to members is your account balance is not a goal. Just because you have it, you don't have to spend it. It's not a race to get your balance down to 0. I think, and I'd like to kind of collaborate with Carla as far as reinforcing that behavior. And I don't know if they should have less access or more access, since the whole premise is for them to save for emergencies. And also setting goals. I think it's always important for them to set goals and maybe to see it. Like, for example, when I sit with someone and counsel them on car buying, I like to go online, and what we do is print out a picture of their absolute dream car. just so they have something to look at. There's been a couple times where I make them change it to their cell phone wallpaper, because whatever your goal is, that needs to stay at the forefront of your mind, because life is crazy and other things get in the way a lot of the times. And like when you're saving for something big and then you have an emergency happen and you have to use that, that can be a real morale killer for somebody. And I even mentioned attaching the savings to something tangible, just to kind of add more of a perceived value to the, to the behavior of saving more, and not thinking of it as like a, I can't spend my own money, but thinking of it as, you don't have to take out a loan or use those predatory services just to get, fix a flat tire. And then I'm going to turn it over to Jackie Teachnor of Forum Credit Union.
Good morning, everyone. This is Jackie with Forum. Thanks for joining us on the webinar today. I'm going to share a little bit about the prize-based savings accounts that we offer here at Forum. One of them we've had for quite a while, and the other one is a fairly new account for us. Please ask any questions at the end if you have any, and I've also included my contact information for follow-up questions after the webinar. We currently offer 2 prize-based savings accounts, the Weekly 5 Club and the 52-Week Money Challenge. So we developed the Weekly 5 Club back in 2007, and we've updated the prizes just a few times, most significantly this past year, but the account itself has remained the same. The purpose was to create a fun way to save based on prize-based savings research from an independent research institute for credit unions and consumer finance called Filene. We wanted to attract funds at a lower rate and encourage regular savings habits and appeal to those who might not normally be savers. This account covers what we consider a broad demographic and social economic target due to the nature of winning something extra besides earning interest. So it is that lottery mentality that we've been talking about. So the account functions on our system as a certificate. So we're kind of keeping the funds not as easily accessed. So the participants pick a term, or we call it a play period, from 3 months to 12 months. And if they deposit $5 or more, which they can make directly to the account through their payroll, or they can set up an automatic transfer. We do have a penalty for early withdrawals, just to, again, encourage them to continue to save the money. We limit the account to 5 accounts per member. And the account holders, they get a certificate number, and we pick a winning number weekly and annually. So we post these numbers at our branches on our website, and we have a dedicated phone line that they can call in to get the number. Members have a set period of days to claim their prize. We don't notify them that they're the winner. They have to watch for their numbers. So again, it's like having a lottery ticket. We also have rollover prizes if it's not claimed. I think last week I have a screenshot. We had a $75 rollover there. I'm still on the Weekly 5. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. We have 1 prize per week valued at $25, and then we have 4 prizes per calendar year valued at $150, $250, $1,000, and this year we have a grand prize of $5,000 that we're really excited about. And those are based on the total deposits made to the account. We updated the annual prize to make sure members are saving new deposits. We weren't sure, but we thought maybe the funds might have been going out of it and then they were just re-saving the same amount. So to be entered into the annual drawing, they have to do a minimum of 12 deposits of at least $5 during the calendar year. And then to be entered to win the $5,000, like what we call the super grand prize, they have to make a minimum of 12 deposits totaling $500 within the calendar year. We've had the account since 2007. We currently have about 1,400 accounts, and it totals 4.4 million in deposits. So that's an average about $3,000 per account. And it costs us about $7,600 if all the prizes are claimed during the year. So that's pretty good for 4.4 million in deposits. Yeah, so the weekly the 52-week money challenge is what we just introduced this past year. So we had members enrolling at the end of last year, and they're going through the challenge this year. So it's very exciting. We have 463 participants, and at June, I think I pulled, midway through, they had $224,000 in deposits. So we're playing off of the online popularity of the 52-week money challenge. It was circulating around Pinterest and Facebook and promoted by people like Dave Ramsey. So we didn't come up with the idea. I wish we would have, but we just created a way for our members to do it more easily with an incentive at the end. So the 52-week money challenge, if you're not familiar with it, is an incremental savings plan that allows participants to save throughout the year. At the end of the challenge, they will have saved $1,378 plus dividends. We pay dividends on the account. So you can see the chart from the slide. So they just follow through that plan and deposit $1 one week, the next week $2, and then all the way to the end, 52. We did a survey recently just to see how it was going, and some have said it's getting pretty tough toward the end, as you can see. So we've encouraged people to maybe adjust. They could start at $52 and work their way back, or they could do, I think it's $26.50 each week. And then they would get that same amount at the end. So we, asked them how they were doing it, and all of them had a different way of depositing the money that worked for them. So they earn a dividend rate on it. They have the funds available at the end of each year. They can set up automatic transfers into the account, and they can also create and receive text or email alerts for deposits. We also send them an email just to kind of encourage them along the way, like you're doing great, you're this far into it, keep on saving. They have to be 18 years or older to open, and we have penalties on this account as well. Again, it functions as a certificate on our system. We just call it a savings plan. I wanted to know on both of these accounts, we actually allow our employees to participate and encourage them to do so. But if we select an employee as a winner, we award them and then select another non-employee member winner. So that's nice to be able to encourage our employees to go along with the program, and that helps them encourage members to do that as well. So we are very excited about the legislation change, so we don't have to include that no purchase necessary entries. That's how we did the Weekly 5 Club before. We didn't have a lot of people who entered that in that manner, but we did have a few that would just enter in the no purchase necessary type without having the account. But we're glad we don't have to have that extra compliance on our product. So those are the prize-based savings accounts that we offer, and I think that concludes the webinar, and I think we're going to open it up for questions for everyone.
Yes, and we already have received several questions, so let me start at the beginning. So we had a question from Marie Morse up in Lafayette. Is it true that FDIC insured but federal banks cannot offer this type of account? I need to clarify that. The way I read the law, I know that there was a law and then there was some rulemaking. So I need to go back through and look at the rulemaking. Do any of our other speakers know the answer to that question? The federal law has references the three types of financial institutions, credit unions, and then savings and loan associations in terms of changing the definitions and the rules. So we can clarify that and get that out via email. The second question, this would be to some of our early implementers. Do you know what the average income was for some of the depositors? Because there's a concern, did any of the depositors have barriers earning the funds to deposit? So do you know any information about the average income of some of your folks? Carla or
Sure.
or Jackie?
We have that information. Unfortunately, I did not dig it up, but I can tell you that the typical participant was at or under 200% of the federal poverty level. The vast majority of them qualify for our IDA program, and that's primarily why they were participating and working with us.
Okay. Jackie, do you know?
Same thing. I didn't pull that. I could see what the average income, but from, you know, having the account for so long, it is a mixture of people who, when we first introduced the account, it had a higher rate on it. So a lot of people did just park money in there and weren't using it in the intended way. So we've adjusted things that way. But I would say the people who are using it to save money, and whenever we've selected a winner, they weren't normal savers. You know, this was their way of saving money with this benefit. So like I said, if I pulled it, it might be a little skewed, but it just depends on how the people are using the account.
Okay. And Rochelle, was Financial Health Federal Credit Union, was your role mainly with the Stash or Cash and Win with John H. Bonner, or do you have other products as well?
Right now we're doing a savings challenge in order to get people to place funds in an emergency fund. We've got a bronze, silver, and a gold plan. The bronze plan, you would save $150 in 20 weeks. The silver would be $300 and the gold would be $600. And the way it works is you have to make the deposits on a weekly basis by the Friday of that week. And we're doing it that way to kind of challenge people to actually set the money aside, and for our biweekly and monthly earners to get them in the habit of leaving something extra after payday.
And do you have a sense of the income level of the participants in those programs?
It's wide because, yeah, it's wide.
Okay, thank you. So we have a couple other questions. One is, do the financial institutions pay the prize money? Where do they get the money from?
Well, so from Forum, it's out of the marketing budget. So every year we budget for these prizes being awarded. And so we know, because how we've set up the account, how much it's going to cost us every year. I know of other leagues or other states that have done where lots of credit unions come together and then they do a larger prize and they pool their money for that larger prize. I have heard of that.
Okay. And another sort of wonky question, are there any income tax reporting requirements either for the depositor, who may be receiving one of those prizes?
Yes, we do it because it's an enter to win. So we report it if they win over $600 total. So we issue them a 1099 that states that they did receive the prize of $600 or more, and then they're responsible for the taxes.
Okay. Rochelle, is that similar for yours?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we have couple more questions. I'm going to stay on the financial institution question, then we have a community-based question. So for the financial institutions that have given monthly prizes, have you considered doing, and I think you discussed this a little bit, sort of a larger prize or larger prizes on a a quarterly or annual basis and requiring those depositors to keep their money in the account the entire time.
Did you want, this is Jackie with Forum, would
Sure.
you like me to answer how we, yeah, we did just recently adjust it. We had monthly and quarterly and annual, and we adjusted those, and they do have to, at the time that we do the drawing, still have the account. So even if they met the requirements, which you possibly could, when we do the drawing, the account has to be open or at the time that we state that the prize period is over. So they would have to keep it to be entered on both of our products.
Okay. We have a couple other questions that are more client focused, and that is, how do you attract clients to this and how do you get them involved in it? So Carla, you gave some ways that you used your sort of captive audience in your classes to do that. Are there other ways to attract or convince people to start this up for any of the panelists?
I can just reemphasize that you have to make it very simple, and that is part of a natural process for them. So within the class, we didn't say, does anyone want to participate? We just rolled it out just as if they were automatically going to participate, and they had to take a specific action to opt out. And then we have verbiage of what they would be losing if they didn't opt out. I understand that my registration fee for class is non-refundable, and that I don't want to save for unexpected expenses and emergencies. So it just sounds crazy that, no, I don't want to save for these things. And so people really had to think, do I really not want to do this?
With our 52-week money challenge, like I said, it being popular on Pinterest and Facebook, we really used our social media channels, and then again promoting it to our employees who jumped on it to be able to do it, and then because they were so excited, they shared it with people coming into the branch. But I would say through our survey, the majority of them saw it online. We sent emails to some of our email subscriber lists, and then social media followers. And I think because of the popularity of that challenge, and then this gave them a way to do it, I think the other places were telling them to, put the money in an envelope, and we were saying, there's an easier way to do it, and we have an account that you could use to be able to participate in the money challenge.
That's great. So I have one last question, and then we'll wrap up the formal part of this recorded session, and that is there a specific enrollment period for these programs? Like, do you have to start it at a particular time or time of year? And then we've talked a little bit about the length of period that one must stay in to be eligible for those prizes. But in terms of the enrollment into a program, is there any specific time? Or can one enroll at any point?
Our Weekly 5 Club is always open, so at any time they can participate and state how long they want to play. And then the 52-week challenge is an annual, and we'll open it up again in November. So they have November and December to enroll for 2016. So it is, once we stop it, they can do it in another account, but this account, they would have to say by the end of this year that they'd want to participate starting January 1.
Okay, any others?
Our registration is currently in the Pathways Financial Education class.
Okay, so it times with your class.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay, so I'm going to break my rule, and I'm going to answer one. I'm going to ask, oh my gosh, we keep getting more questions. So how is there a maximum length of time that a person can participate? Can one continue to participate in an ongoing way? Quick yes or no?
Yes, because our function as a certificate, it just rolls over, and they would have to specifically say, I do not want this account anymore.
Okay, Rochelle, for your metal plans, bronze, silver, and such?
Absolutely. They could continue to just keep re-enrolling.
Okay. And Carla, would you have someone participate in a class more than once or just one class period?
Well, it's one class period, but they participate in the program as long as they want, and they also have the opportunity to work with a financial coach ongoing.
Great. All right. So we keep getting more questions. So from the we've talked so much about all the positive benefits of the program in terms of creating that behavior, and Rochelle talked very eloquently about, you know, setting a goal and keeping that goal top of mind. For either the clients or for the financial institutions, if you could just in a couple words, what's the biggest problem, risk, or issue that you see from a client perspective and from a financial institution perspective? Carla?
Probably the biggest risk on a client side is that most of our participants do receive some type of public benefit. So this type of account is not protected, and it would be counted as an asset when looking at their eligibility.
And we're trying to change that. Thank you. And from a anybody else from a client perspective? How about a financial institution perspective? Biggest risk or issue?
I would say loss of interest. And it was when we surveyed our 52-week money challenge participants, they stated, you know, I didn't stay on it, I needed the money for something else, but then 99% of them said they'd do it again next year. So it's kind of like you mentioned at the beginning, a diet where, you know, you fall off and then you try to continue and participate again. So I would say loss of interest, but it sounds like they still want to keep trying.
Okay. Great. Well, I want to thank each of our panelists. Many thanks to Kelsey Clayton from the Indiana Asset and Opportunity Network for pulling this together. We had hoped to have a regulator on the call, but you can see we've got some really great experiences from our early innovators. Thanks to Rachel Mattingly from the Indiana Association for Community Economic Development, Carla James from John H. Bonner Community Center for sharing their pilot project and how they're going to adapt that, Rochelle Perkins with the Financial Health Federal Credit Union, who partnered with John H. Bonner and also has their own products, and then Jackie Teachner from the Forum Credit Union. So thank you all. We will conclude the recorded part of our webinar, and mind you that this is the first of many, as we hope that this encouragement of savings develops all across the state. So stay on the line if you'd like to continue an offline conversation. Thank you.